I know that. I apologize for speaking on your behalf, but we do. I know that. All right. John Katko, when he was running, didn't believe in climate change. Now he's starting to soften his position because, the Democrats vote during the presidential year. So now he believes that there's climate change, but he doesn't believe it's man-made. It's just this coincidence, just a coincidence. All right. Well, he's out of touch. We need to reduce carbon emissions. I'm very firm on that, and there are things we can do. We need to promote and invest in alternative sources of energy. I'm big on solar energy. It's becoming more and more efficient every day. My son majors in quantum physics at Maryland, and he tells me, Dad, this is something that's going to supply enough energy for the entire country in a very short time, like 5 to 10 years down the road. We can do this. And what's interesting to me is when Republicans say, well, that's not the government's job. That's not the government's job. The government can't do that. The government can't do anything. Really? Wasn't it the government that built the U.S. highway system and improved our economy in so doing? Wasn't it the government that put a man on the moon? Wasn't it the government that put a rover on Mars? The government has a role. Our climate is being destroyed. It's the government's role to save it and to guide us and to lead us. I believe in hydropower. I believe that we need to limit carbon emissions with legislation, as the president tried to do with the Clean Power Act, but John Katko wouldn't support it. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there was legislation that by 2030, existing carbon-emitting plants had to limit their emissions. And by the way, it wouldn't even affect New York State because the EPA said, we're pretty much already in compliance with that. But John Katko wouldn't support it. Instead, he proposed, well, we only apply that to new plants. How many new plants are going to be built between now and 2030, right? It's stupid, but that's what they do. They oppose any kind of progress and then propose some alternative that's senseless but makes them appear like a moderate in the newspaper. We need to protect our environment. I'm huge on that. I'm getting to stop. I got to pass.
We need to invest dramatically in renewable energies and energy sources. We need to invest in further conservation. And I'm going to say something that I haven't heard either of my colleagues talk about, but I'm going to say it because I've had to come to this position as I've thought about how I can say this honestly. I'm not a fan of nuclear power, but I'm also not a fan of turning off our lights. I am a fan of ending fracking, of preventing fracking and ending it, of doing everything possible to reduce carbon emissions. I favor carbon taxes, with 25% of the resources coming from those carbon taxes going back to offset the cost for low, moderate income people. I've had to sort of think through this carefully though. I believe that nuclear power will eventually result in a Fukushima. We have huge problems in terms of disposal of waste. We also have huge problems in terms of how it's mined with indigenous populations, American Indians, Aboriginals.